Għakom ma' Shamus Ogilvy. Welcome to our program. Shamus, it's a lovely name. It's obviously reminding us of very beautiful environments and highlands and
films.
And films, yes, it's true. Where do you come from
I come from
originally?
Scotland.
Exactly.
Wow,
Well, there
I've
we
been there
are.
15 days
Whereabouts
ago.
have you been?
It was
St.
really
Andrews,
nice.
are we
I
heard
was
about
in
St. Andrews?
But not far from where I live.
It's beautiful.
Okay, before we start off, I'll ask you to permit me, I'm going to say something in Maltese to our viewers, okay? Mela, Shamus Ogilvy, stidinni hawnhekk huwa famuż u msejjaħ ħafna bħala The Honey Hunter. Fil-fatt ilu għal dawn l-aħħar 12 sena idur id-dinja apparti l-Ingilterra fejn fittex jagħmel b'riċerka kbira jfittex l-iktar għasel ta' kwalitajiet għolja l-ewwel beda minn pajjiżu mbagħad ovvjament skopra beda jiskopri l-għasel f'pajjiżi oħra u għalfejn illum il-ġurnata ħansiru nafu ħankellmu ftit għalfejn jażel ċertu għasel minn ieħor u finalment x'inhuma l-proprjetajiet tal-għasel li jkun qed ifittex u għal xiex anke jużammu u għal xiex nistgħu nużawhom aħna wkoll. We are great believers of honey. We all love honey, but obviously when we hear someone like you speak about the different types of honeys that exist in the world, one has to ask a lot of questions.
Can we start from the beginning? Because I'm really curious. How did this passion start?
By sheer accident. I'm a chef by trade, and I like cooking with natural products. That's how it really started. And while I was in Kosovo, serving with the British Army, I got to know the locals, and they would eat honey with every meal.
Wow.
So when I came back to Britain and went back into civilian life, I started exploring into honey. And I became a trader of Indian honey into Britain, and that's how my passion started.
Wow.
Interesting. What is it that you look for in honey, and how have you learned to tell the difference between good honey and better still honey?
I look at the flavour. I look at to see how whether it's had any water added into it. There are so many. It's a very complex subject, so I try and keep it as easy as possible for your consumers and people to understand. I first of all look at texture. I look at the colour. That's very important.
What can you tell from the colour? And is it general across, for example?
No, it's not general. Definitely not general. Depending on which part of the world you get your honey from. So from the
England, for example, because that's where you
generally
started.
Speaking, honeys will crystallise quite quickly. Nothing wrong with crystallisation. It's a natural thing. It will happen anyway.
Okay.
But some honeys will crystallise faster than others.
Okay.
I would like to ask, is it true that if I'm from Malta, it's better for me to consume honey from Malta? Or particularly
Depending
from
if you have, some people say if you get hay fever or you suffer from hay fever, yes, you should have your honey from Malta.
Okay.
But all honeys will have antibacterial properties, but some honeys will have more antibacterial properties than others.
Okay.
So hence, I now have, I'm into Manuka, and I have a new honey called Jarrah, the Australians pronounce it.
Oh, that's
Jarrah.
how you, in fact, that's how I pronounce it. I was going to tell you.
I've been ticked off by the Australians how to pronounce it.
In fact, without knowing that you pronounce it Jarrah, I was pronouncing it Jarrah honey from Australia. And,
Jarrah.
Okay, so,
This is
Jarrah.
really special honey, and I find Jarrah. It only comes from Western Australia.
Okay.
It is very unique honey. In Western Australia, they have no pesticides whatsoever. They pride themselves in their...
What's the phenomenon about this Jarrah honey and also the Manuka? Because some people still don't know what the benefits are. We've been hearing Manuka, but we don't know what the benefits are. So people most probably locally purchase it because she purchased, so everyone then starts purchasing it, but we don't know what the benefits are. So we want to...
It's very complicated, and I'm learning. I'm even learning. Every time I pick up a newspaper or I go online, I learn something new about Manuka or I learn something new about Jarrah. Jarrah has been only recently in the last 20 years or last 10 years has been developed. The Western Australian government has spent about 1.3 million Australian dollars developing what they call the antimicrobial properties. Antimicrobial means helping to defeat fungal.
Okay.
So the main differences for consumers to know between Manuka and Jarrah is
Jarrah.
Jarrah is Manuka. Jarrah is antifungal, so to help the antifungal, whereas Manuka is much more prevention honey, so helps to fight infection like MRSA.
Okay.
It's good for cholesterol. The other thing that's very trendy now is gut health. Everybody's now talking about cleansing your gut.
And you do it with honey.
And you do it with honey and you do it with Manuka.
Because Manuka has antibacterial.
Exactly.
Antibacterial property, because these are words that we're all learning.
The buzzwords.
Yeah, the buzzwords, but we all. So what's the difference between antibacterial, antimicrobial, and antifungal? Okay, so it's fungus. So anything related to fungus. Antimicrobial, antibacterial. Microbial and bacterial, are they the same or?
No, they're totally different tests, really. To sort of find out a bit more about, there's been a lot of fake stuff certainly in the UK, in the world, in Manuka. And one of the ways you find out that you're not getting this fake stuff, like we do, is we pack in the country that we buy our honey from. So we don't pack in UK. And there's a little code on the side of the label that says RMP, and this will tell you that it's the good stuff. Here we go.
Okay, I'm gonna make you taste some honey. I'm gonna make you taste the Jarrah, and I'm gonna make you taste the Manuka. Okay. Look how exact we are with the stick and everything.
Okay, can we stop for just a few seconds and we'll be back right in the program. Pawsa qasira ħafna ta' ftit sekondi u nitlu lura u jkompli l-programm insin in-nisa.
Okay, ħanilħaq nipprepara mela tajjeb. Mela, jina ħandewaqkom Manuka honey issa. Nixtieq ukoll anke mbagħad forsi nispjegal, I'm going to ask you later to explain, because when we buy, everybody buys Manuka honey, different brands or whatever, you always have this number. And we need to understand what that number means. But first, I want to make them
And I would like to ask also,
the difference.
how do we consume Manuka honey, the benefits about them, after we
How-
taste?
how
Għana
to
milkom
say-
naqra tasting.
Mela.
So, as such, in terms of tasting, besides the fact that you know that they have different tastes, when do you decide to take the Jarrah honey? And when do you decide to take the Manuka honey?
Well, I have Jarrah honey in the morning, every morning. I only have a teaspoon, and I have Jarrah honey in the evening to help me sleep. But I will have I will have a lower number every day because I want to keep the immune system going, and I will have a higher number for if I've got fungal or if I've cut myself or something like that. That's the rule of thumb. The higher the number, the more expensive the honey, the higher the potency. So for everyday use, you want to use the lower the number and something special.
That's what I do. So that I know. But
That's
this
the
I
basic
have
rule of
no
thumb.
information
Yeah.
about. I've never
the Jarrah,
experienced
the Jarrah.
it. So I want
It's new
to be
for me.
this Manuka I'm familiar with, but this I've never used, so I want to know more about it.
So
So you're using Jarrah in the morning and in the evening,
Yes.
and you don't use Manuka.
It's a preferential taste. I find Manuka quite strong at the back of the throat.
Okay.
Some people like Manuka, but as Jarrah is a new super honey now, and it's only just started to come through. I'm the only person selling it in Europe.
Okay.
I'm the only brand, Natural Bio Ogilvy, the only brand selling in Europe.
Okay.
And it's fairly new. It's sold widely in Australia.
And do we consume this with a
Neat.
spoon or we can
with
add to
with a
anything?
spoon, or just have it neat. Because I sometimes have it with chai tea. I love chai tea. I'm really into chai tea at the moment. So I put the boiling water into the chai tea, let the tea stew, and then I add the honey. Therefore, you're not killing the enzymes. It's all about keeping the enzymes in the honey. That's the goodness.
I use this with
So,
my...
yes, so because we...
Yes, and the other thing you need to... a lot of honey is blended. Certainly, it's a very British thing to blend honey. And to blend honey, you have to heat treat it. Therefore, you kill the enzymes.
Exactly.
You really want to stick to your... to keeping to natural honey where the bee is pollinated on a number of plants.
What you're saying
flower.
is very important because in Malta sometimes we use this, the honey with the hot water, misħu blasel, and when we're doing this, the hot water with the honey, we're killing the properties. So we're not meant to take it like this, but we're meant to consume right from the top.
And then hay?
Or put the honey in after you could put the hot water in. Not before,
okay.
not the other way around.
Not before, okay.
Not
to
before.
melt it.
This is really good, eh?
You like it?
I use this one with my son and he seems to like it, but I think I would prefer this one.
Taste-wise?
Taste-wise.
And the difference between
The Jarrah honey is much runnier, has a very toffee taste, very light. Obviously, the higher the ratings you are going to get stronger. Jarrah comes from a eucalyptus tree, and they're very important. It only flowers once every 2 years.
The Jarrah.
So it's
the
very
Jarrah.
special, whereas Manuka you can get every year. You can get Manuka in New Zealand, but you can also now get Manuka in Australia. It comes from come from Eastern Australia, from the Gold Coast, and it's called jellybush.
Okay. So, very important, I will say this again in Maltese for għal-beneficju forsi tan-nies li jkunu qegħdin jaraw dan il-number fuq il-lasel, dak il-number ġili jkun plus 20, plus 15, plus 30. Iktar ma jkun oli, iktar ikun ovvjament fih proprjetajiet, għandu l-proprjetajiet tal-antibacterial. Issa, kif qed jgħid shamus u qed jgħid li jużah bħala preventative, jiġifieri jieħdu normali kuljum matul il-ġranet, però jieħu the lower number, l-iktar doza baxxa, imma mbagħad jekk ikun ma jiflaħx pereżempju jolli iktar id-doza.
Tajba li qed ngħidu
I think it's very important also to bring out, there's a new testing that's going on in New Zealand, because there was a lot of fake stuff in Europe,
exactly, that's what I was going to
UK.
ask.
What the New Zealand Honey Board did is they've brought out a new testing, which is they test for the 5 attributes. Okay, one of them is pollen, and these attributes are compounds of which a main component is methoglothial. Hence, on my label on the Manuka, I have MG, because there's also a trademark called UMF, Unique Manuka Factor. This is a very expensive trademark to take out, and a lot of people pay a lot of money to buy the trademark. But MG or MGO is free in New Zealand. So a lot of people have gone down the MGO route. Last year or year before, you saw Manuka Total Activity, all sorts of things being sold, MPA.
Yes, TA.
You
In fact,
now
there are
cannot sell anything that says MPA activity in Manuka, and that's why I pack in New Zealand to make sure I have the authentic.
So that's when you want to buy authentic.
So to know that I'm buying the real thing, I have to check.
On the label, it should
there is
say RMP.
RMP.
This is a packer code, and it's also a beekeeper code. So when it comes to exporting, I get a stamp by the exporters that tells me that this is all kosher honey.
Okay,
Where is
okay.
And you won't
RMP?
get that if they pack in the UK or if they pack in another country.
Okay,
This
very
is
good.
very important.
On the
what
other
you're saying.
side, by the barcode, okay, you'll see RMP,
okay.
and it will also
RMP.
say packed in
Okay.
New Zealand.
Nista' norjulkom da, għax fil-fatt ħafna nies jisaqsu fuq il-Manuka, ma nistgħux naqbdu nixtru dak li naraw biex tkunu tafu l-prodott jekk hux ġenwini, jekk hux tajjeb għax Manuka u ħafna, tidu tfittxu l-RMP code. Hija tawwek, żgħir ħafna ta' biex norwulkom, imma issibuh, ġifieri RMP code. Fitxu dak.
And there's a very good, useful website which I go to a lot, which your viewers could go to. It is basically umf.org.nz, grading, and then it will tell you.
This is in New
it will
Zealand.
it will have UMF. Basically, it starts at 5 and goes all the way up to 26. And then on the bottom line, it talks about methogloxical, which starts at 100 and goes up to 1,400. So this is the different, and they're interchangeable, but only interchangeable through methogloxical, because it's the new compound that they've done a lot of testing on.
Now, this is a personal curiosity. I have a friend of mine who really believes in honey and cures everything that comes to mind. But believe me, even if it's a cut, if she's burnt, if she has sore throat, is this real? Is it something
Yes, absolutely real. I think because it's totally natural. It's what Mother Earth has given us. So the bees are very, very clever things.
In fact, besides and it's good that you mentioned it, because I was going to ask you, like, what is honey used for besides what we normally say, the obvious? The obvious is to cure a cold and what we're known. But recently I learned that it's very good for cuts and wounds and mosquito bites.
Yeah, mosquito bites,
bees,
wasp
bees,
bites,
of my
bees
news.
wasp bites.
This is it for everything, believe me. Everything that happens to us, she tells us use honey.
Mouth ulcers was something
Exactly.
new. I didn't know about that you can cure mouth ulcers
Yes,
with...
mouth ulcer with Jarrah. I did the other day. I was at a show and I burnt my hand with steam on a kettle. I immediately put Jarrah honey onto the affected area. Within 20 minutes, the pain had gone. Within an hour, the blister had gone down, and within 2 days, the red mark had gone completely.
Does it
So
does it remove wrinkles?
Some people use it for beauty procedure.
Ladies, the anti-aging is really hot topic.
You are asking
Well, I
for
give
Start
my six
using
bottles.
Jarrah in your cream.
Sorry, we're asking you, bombarding you with all these
It's all right.
questions.
It's all right.
U nixtieq li kif qegħdin fiha u naħseb ħajibqa' naqra oħra magħna.
Le, rridu morru għal-mister ieħor.
Alright, għax kont se ngħidulhom ibatulna xi
Imma
domandi
jdilna,
jekk
jdilna.
għandkom. Kont se nsaqsihom jibatulna xi domandi jekk għandkom. One final question to you. If it's put in another form, so let's say there are sweets made of Manuka honey or this made of Manuka honey, when you're using it but you're using it differently instead of raw like this, would you be taking away certain properties?
I think you would, because if you're making a sweet,
go through a
there are different. You can cook honey, and then you're killing all the enzymes, or you can. They actually now make honey into a powder. So it's possible to turn it into a powder, which is
This is
the
nice.
next one.
It has a really good taste. So
Uh-huh.
why
This I
take it
like.
in a powder?
Would you,
Both are nice, but this is
Why?
really
would
I
you
prefer
say that
this.
everybody responds and can respond to honey in the same way?
I think everybody's different. I think everybody's body is different. When I go running, I know I'm not very fit at the moment, but when I go running, I take honey at the beginning, and then I'll take it at the end.
Why?
Because I want, first of all, I want to keep my energy levels up, and I want something natural.
Okay.
So I don't like any of
You
those
should try
gels. I
You
don't
should
like
try
gels.
Because this is something we often discuss. We say, if do we respond to certain things the same way? Like if we give our children, say, Manuka honey, does it mean that there is a difference between one child or another, whether he gets more sick or less sick? But you're saying, I think everyone is... It's a
Everybody's
personal
different.
thing.
I mean, my children don't like Manuka. My son likes Jarrah honey, and he'll have it every day. Because it's much sweeter, it doesn't have that strong taste. And recently he's now gone off honey, he's into sweets, and but we're driving. But he still comes and has honey every morning on his
Very
cereal.
But it is considered to be one of the superfoods of the world, and
Yeah.
it was a real pleasure to have you here and
Thank
at
you.
least explore a little bit this phenomenon on the
huge
Manuka.
subject. It's a huge
And now you
subject.
took us on to the Jarrah as well. So thank you very much for coming,
you.
for making us
Thank you.
taste
Thank
the
you. It
honey.
was a pleasure.
Sanalqu l-program flimkien ma' mistiden ieħor ħanitkellmu ftit fuq l-imbit, issa nerġgħu lura għall-lokal u mbagħad nagħlqu l-programm flimkien. Ibqgħu magħna.